So it seems like our world is getting farther and farther away from God every day. And it's not like it's this rapid change. It's a slow migration. And I think it really does start when we substitute God's truth for our own. You know, you hear people all the time saying, I'm just living my truth. I'm just living my truth. Well, okay, well, see how that works out for you in the end, you know? And we've somehow elevated personal truth so much that if you don't agree with or indulge somebody else's misguided truth, then God's truth and his people kind of get canceled by our culture for just going, hey, we can't lose sight of what God said is important and what God said is true, but we get so marginalized by louder voices, kind of thing. It's frustrating.
It's so easy to live our truth instead of God's truth because, our schedules are very busy. And so to make time for God, it's really got to be, you've really got to make it a priority. You've got to make the time. And I know I'm guilty of that.
And that's kind of what this was too. It was like being intentional. So if our voices are silenced, how do we have an impact? We're called to be sanctified, which that word just means set apart or be different. Like our lives, as we live them day in and day out, should look different from the world, and we need to remember that our job is to please God, not culture. And so now inside of that, though, there is a big responsibility. We're called to be set apart, yes. And while we're called to speak the truth in a world that has its own distorted truth, we're also called to speak that truth, but to do it in love. That's where I think we get it wrong a lot of times. And I know it's frustrating to be seen as a narrow-minded zealot just for standing for God's truth. But if we look just as hateful as the people who claim to be so open-minded, that's an irony. It's people that want to accept everything, don't want to accept God and his truth. That's the craziest part of it. It's a total catch-22. But if we get angry about it, then we lose our influence to be that positive thing. And so it's nice because leaning into love also frees us up from having to be the judge. And that's how I think we can make a difference in this world, by leading with love as we also share truth as well.